It's not something I talk about often because I guess I just don't want people to think that I'm playing the sympathy card. But that's not what this story is about. Instead, what I'm about to share with you is a dark moment in my life caused by lies and deceit I was fed by the fitness industry.
Listen, if you need sugar and shit like that to enjoy your life, you need to have a fucking word with yourself.
Blended banana will raise your blood sugar faster than a teaspoon of straight table sugar.
And as a result, I developed an unhealthy eating disorder and body dysmorphia that had a hold over me for years. And sadly, countless men are falling victim to this lie and also developing body dysmorphia, eating disorders, which wreaks havoc on their mental health. And the worst part is most men don't even know that they've got it. They think that neurotic thoughts and obsessing over food and their body is normal. And the worst part is fitness models, influencers, social media are setting up a generation of men to feel their self-worth is tied into the way that they look. And hardly anyone talks about this. So I feel like I have a duty of care to share a dark moment in my life with you today, and I guess share my story on how I overcame my eating disorder in the hope that it helps you or anyone else watching this video. Now, to discover how this disorder came about, we need to take a trip down memory lane. Now, up until my teenage years, my childhood was pretty normal and absolutely awesome. I was obsessed with sports, so naturally I gravitated towards the gym to get bigger, stronger, and fitter. Or at least, that's the story I told myself. But as soon as I turned 14, I morphed into a very self-conscious, timid, and I guess socially awkward teenager. I was riddled with acne from literally head to toe, to the point where I wouldn't go swimming with my mates because I was genuinely so embarrassed about the zip shrapnel exploding in one of my mates' face, which is really silly looking back at it. And while my mates were all getting girlfriends, my dad was walking into my room, genuinely asking me if I was gay because he'd never seen me with a girl. Constantly being rejected and alone, it honestly made me feel quite ugly and unloved. And as a result of that, I guess that's where my unhealthy relationship with my appearance stemmed. So what I did was I used the gym as a way to get leaner, more muscular, almost like an attempt to try and be more attractive. Now, like most newbies who get into fitness, I turned to Men's Health magazine for advice. And I'm in absolute awe of these guys on the front cover and their physiques. They're beautiful. They're beautiful human beings. And I just want to look like them. So I get my geek on, I study what they're eating, how they're training, and I'm following their diet and training plans to the letter. For the next few months, I'm eating grapefruit and egg whites for breakfast, nuts as a mid-morning snack, tuna and salad for lunch, plain chicken, rice and broccoli for dinner, because God forbid if I have any sauce, otherwise it would spike my insulin and make me fat, and then I'd have a casein protein shake for dessert. And I was training 6 days a week for 2 hours a pop, hoping to be in cover model condition in weeks, like these fitness magazines were promising. And this kind of go hard, go home approach got me looking like this when I was just 18 years old. And admittedly, I'm not the skinny fit anymore. I'm bigger than most boys my age, and my rugby coach and the other dads are coming up to me after the game, saying how well I'm playing, how powerful I look, how strong I am, how much faster I've gotten. And by now as well, my acne is clearing after taking medication. Now, you'd think after working so hard on my appearance that I'd be happy. But the truth is, I wasn't. And I guess this is where things quickly take a nasty turn. Because after spending 3 years partying, drinking, living off super noodles at university, I really let myself go. And when I came home from university, after a few comments on how I'd gained weight, almost feeling like a shadow of my former self, I was fat, I was unhealthy, I was sluggish, and I felt like I was really letting myself down. So what I did is I went back to following the fitness model training and diet plans before I went to uni. And I'm desperate to get abs like these cover models again, convinced that being shredded is the answer to my low confidence. But this time around of trying to get lean and build muscle is completely different to when I followed these fitness models diets the first time around when I was a lot younger. Because the truth was, I just couldn't seem to shift my belly or gain any muscle. And I found myself kind of being able to stick to my super strict diet, from Monday to Friday. But once the weekend arrived, I lose the plot. And what starts as a small cheat meal slowly grows into a cheat weekend. While, I'm stuffing my face with, and this is no joke, about 6, 7, possibly 8,000 calories in one sitting. And it's almost like I'm in a trance when this is happening. It's almost like I'm not in control of my body or my thoughts. And, with my belly literally bursting at the seams once I finish all of this food, I just feel so guilty. And I just remember one time just running to the bathroom, lifting my top up to see the damage that I'd caused. And looking so fluffy and bloated, I promised myself that I would never, ever binge eat again. But here's what would happen. I'd wake up on a Monday riddled with guilt, sometimes weighing 3 or 4 kilograms more than before the weekend. So I'd drag myself to the gym on Monday morning, do my cardio, and admittedly, I'd feel a lot better for a few days. Until the binge eating, shame, and hating how my body looked would happen all over again. And after a few weeks, my binge eating episodes started to really, really get me down. And I'm just in this cycle of just not being able to lose fat, constantly feeling like I'm just going round and round in circles. And if you think things can't get any worse, oh, they do. Trust me, they do. In fact, things got so bad while I was working in school, I found myself stealing the kids' chocolate because I just needed something sweet. I've never admitted that, so please don't tell anyone. Now, by now, the weekend binges are happening in the week too, and my brain and life literally revolves around food. If friends invite me out for dinner, for example, I make sure that I meet them after they finish their food because I'm scared that some fries, a bit of sauce, or a burger will make me fat. I also stopped going out drinking and socializing because, again, I'm just worried that I'm going to get fat and I've got food on the brain. Now, I understand I probably should have asked for help, but for a few weeks, possibly even a few months, I was in denial. But I remember going home once for Christmas and to see my family, and Dad was serving up Christmas dinner, and he asked me if I wanted roast potatoes. And I genuinely freaked out because I genuinely thought that carbs were bad and that they were going to make me fat. And with my dad being as blunt as a hammer, he literally called me pathetic to my face and said that I needed help. So I reached out to a therapist who specialized in eating disorders, and I told him what I was experiencing, what was going on in my head, and without hesitation, he was certain that I had what they call orthorexia nervosa, which is an unhealthy obsession with eating healthy food and avoiding food that isn't considered clean, natural, or organic, which is kind of ironic given how much I was binge eating on weekends. And according to him, years of kind of demonizing sugar, carbs, processed foods, sauces, labeling food as good or bad or clean or dirty meant I'd built a really unhealthy relationship with food. And when I look back to these beliefs, they all stemmed from the fitness models that I was idolizing and getting advice from. And sadly, I'm seeing a similar trend happen now in the fitness industry. And that's why I get fucking infuriated nowadays when I see guys on social media and supermarkets pointing out that you shouldn't eat this or you shouldn't eat that. Using language like this food is good, this food is bad, this is shit, things like that. Or what even does my head in even more is when crypto bros turned nutritionists sprout nonsense on social media about how you're a loser if you're not eating steak and eggs for breakfast. Because the irony is, okay, behind closed doors, 99% of these guys who demonize processed foods are eating junk from time to time. But they put up this fake facade, this fake lifestyle of them eating organic food for clout and likes so they can look good and have some kind of superiority complex to other people who aren't able to eat, good food all of the time. But the reality is, okay, is a little bit of junk from time to time, as long as 80-90% of our diet comes from whole food that we cook from scratch, is absolutely fine. And allowing ourselves some junk, especially through periods of dieting, can actually keep us sane and motivated. To give you some context, okay, when I got to sub 10% body fat, I was eating a small bar of chocolate every single evening. So what does that tell you? And this is what my therapist just keep pounding on at me. He was saying, don't demonize food groups. So over the next few months, he taught me about, why I was binge eating. And simply put, years of trying to lose fat, years of restricting my calories and avoiding food that I, simply loved the taste of, had primed my hunter-gatherer animal part of my brain to demolish hyperpalatable, sugary sweet food when it was available. And my brain had almost trained itself to think that food was scarce, so that when it was available, I'd demolish anything that I could get my hands on. And then, like I said earlier, I'd binge, feel full, but once I got hungry again, my brain would kickstart the whole process again. So what my therapist first did was he got me to start eating more food, obviously, and to forget about losing fat for a while, and instead eat in a slight calorie surplus while allowing myself to eat junk from time to time and just focus on training, focus on getting stronger, focus on getting fitter, and kind of turned my attention away from just always wanting to have abs and lose fat all of the time. And slowly, my relationship with food got better. But the real test was about to happen, because on our penultimate call together, after I told him I was in a much better headspace, he gave me permission to binge eat. He literally said, Dan, this weekend, I want you to binge. And naturally, as you can imagine, when he told me this, I absolutely shit myself, because I was so scared of going back to my old ways. So once the weekend came and, Friday night arrived, I bought myself a takeaway and a chocolate bar, got full, and didn't even feel the need to want to binge eat or even eat more. And for the first time in years, I felt fully in control and had no desire to want to keep binging. And in a way, me and my therapist, we'd fixed my brain. And a year or so later, I managed to get into the best shape of my life without binging once. So the point of this video, so if you've been feeling a little bit lost lately, and maybe a bit confused, frustrated with all of the misinformation and conflicting nutrition advice you find online, or maybe you feel like you're developing neurotic eating habits and behaviors, maybe you've got a bit of fear around food, you think that a certain food is going to make you fat or whatnot, I just want you to remember, okay, that there's no such thing as a good or bad food, only a good or bad diet. And with your diet, of course, you should aim to eat clean. I absolutely hate that word, by the way, clean. What the fuck is clean? You should try and eat clean as often as you can. Cook using single ingredient foods and avoid ultra processed food. But that's just not realistic all of the time, especially if you live in the Western world. Which is why I'm a huge fan of the 80-10-10 rule, where 80% of your food should come from clean, naturally sourced food, the other 10% from semi kind of processed food, and the other 10% just from the food that you absolutely love the taste of, whether it's good, clean, dirty, shit, whatever. And the language that you use and how you talk to yourself is crucial too. Try avoid labeling food as good or bad or clean or dirty, and things like cheat meals, because they encourage demonizing food and food groups like sugar, sweet stuff, processed food, and it glorifies binge eating, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And what rational brain does it make sense to eat or not eat the food that you love the taste of Monday to Friday, but on the weekends, cheat meal, eat as much as you want? It makes no fucking sense whatsoever. But the most important and empowering take-home point is to remember that despite what's going on in your brain, you are always in control. And conventional therapy has its place, don't get me wrong, but most will try telling you that your binge eating comes down to childhood trauma or lack of self-love, depression, and in some cases that might be true. But in my case, I just couldn't control my urge to binge because my brain was hardwired to think that I needed food in order to survive, because I was starving and depriving myself. That was why I kept binging. I hope this video has helped you out in any way. And if you've got a story to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And as always, if you need help, I've got some links down there which you can reach out to me. Remember, If you're struggling as well, make sure you reach out to a professional who can help you like they did with me. I'll see you soon.